Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Creatives on the Couch. You're on the couch with creatives. What does that mean? This is the podcast for creative people, professionals in the creative industry, where they can come and tell their stories, tell us about their industries, and inspire others who might be thinking of going into those creative industries as well. And we have a group, a creatives group, which is a private membership group for creatives only, to have a safe space to connect, grow and learn from each other.
So now, this is join us.
Yeah, come and join us. But this is a very, very special show. This is a very special show because this is the pre-show show. We're not quite ready at our first show yet. This is the pre-show. And we have a really, really special guest on our pre-show show. And the reason for that is because we're going to be talking about values. And values are something that are very important to us here at Creatives. And we have the founder or co-founder, should I say, of ValuesJam with us. And as you get to know our shows over the course of time, you'll realise that we will play a little game, a ValuesJam game at the end of each session that just gives you a little insight into what our guests' core values are. So I am delighted to welcome Lisa Birtles of ValuesJam. Lisa, welcome to Creators on the Couch.
Thank you so much, Melanie. I'm really honoured to be here for the pre-show. Thank you very much for inviting me.
You're welcome. So, Lisa, tell us about ValuesJam. I'm going to just see if I can hold them up. It works.
There you go.
Sometimes it disappears, doesn't it, when you know, these virtual backgrounds. But these lovely, lovely playing cards you've created, and they feel so good. They're very tactile, aren't they, Lisa? I just like touching them. They're really soft.
Yeah, they are actually. We just celebrated our first birthday actually last week, and we were talking about our highlights, and actually receiving the physical decks was a real highlight. And in this virtual world that we all live in now, or the hybrid world that we live in, it's still nice to have something to touch and feel and smell and everything, you know. So yes, we ValuesJam. What's our story? So it was co-founded with my business partner Alan Williams, and I was attending a planning meeting for World Values Day. World Values Day is one of those days that happens every single year. It's been going since about 2016, and it's getting a big audience. And Alan wanted to collaborate on the production of a card game. So values quite often get talked about in quite an academic way, and you know, there are certainly kind of papers and books about values, but to date, there's not been a lot of stuff that's been really accessible and usable for everybody. And so that's what we wanted to create, a game that helps people to talk about their values in an easy, a lighter kind of way, really. So that's why we created the game.
That's really good, because it's true, thinking about it. I don't know if you've done the same, Julie, whenever you've been to job interviews and you've had to do those personality questionnaires, and they all have the questions about what your core values and stuff, and you have to tick a box.
What are your weaknesses? What are your strengths?
Yeah, all of that. But you're right, and it's quite dry.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. And, you know, actually, what I've found, and you know, and maybe I can tell you my story briefly in a moment or two, but what I find is that quite often people are stumped by the question, what are your values? People don't know what to say. There's absolutely no doubt everybody has values. Everybody, every single one of us, whether, you know, we're kind of young or old, you know, whether we're working for someone else, whether we're freelance, we all have values, and they are really, really important in how we make decisions in our life and the actions that we take. So, you know, one of the other things about ValuesJam, ValuesJam's kind of a movement and a community. We want everybody to be able to kind of get in touch with their own values, to really know what they are, so that it becomes easy to talk about them and it becomes easier to say, how the values are going to play into, working together with somebody. They really help us to set boundaries as well. If we know what our values are, it becomes much easier to set boundaries.
So how do they actually work, these cards?
So
explain, because I don't have a pack with me. Melanie has.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen a few, but I don't quite know how this would work in, say, an interview situation.
In an interview situation, gosh, yeah. There are kind of, I don't know that we've actually had anybody use them in an interview situation yet. But if you are a hiring manager, or a hiring business owner, or if you're going for an interview, I think how it would work is that if you know what your core values are, it becomes much easier then for you to approach the question with the other person. So to test whether you've got shared values and whether you're going to be a good fit and a good match for each other to work together. So that's how they would work best. I'm going to take a little step back, if I may, and I don't want to in any way be patronising to anybody who's listening, but I just want to, be really clear what we're talking about here, what values are. So values are just, the things that are important to us, the things that they're principles that kind of guide our life. So we might not call them values. We might never have heard that word before, actually. But we do all have things that are really important to us. So, for some people, it's family. For other people, it's security. For other people, it's creative freedom. So it's about knowing what our core values are so that we can get more of them in our lives and that we can align ourselves with people who share our values. I don't know, ladies, whether you've ever had that experience of feeling like something wasn't quite right in somebody you were working with. And actually feeling, getting to the point of feeling either really frustrated, really misunderstood, really just almost blocked, and sometimes, perhaps totally underappreciated, actually. Yeah. I can see you nodding, ladies. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think everybody does.
Yeah.
At some stage in their lives, absolutely.
Yeah. And I've certainly had that. And, my story is that I've been a consultant for all of my career, but for the last 10 years, I've been self-employed. So I work with lots and lots of different organisations and clients, and some of those have worked better than others, honestly. So sometimes an organisation or a client can look like the perfect match for you on paper. And it seems that you have the skills, the experience they're looking for. They seem to have the opportunities that you're looking for to display your talents and so on. And then you get there and something just doesn't feel right. So the values cards are really helpful because they help you to do your due diligence. They help you to do that kind of research before you commit yourself, actually. And actually, even if you're already in a place and it isn't feeling right, being able to approach a conflict situation or a misunderstanding through the lens of values and people's positive intent in relation to their values is a really great way to kind of move forward.
Well, then how do you use the cards in any kind of scenario in which you are feeling slightly uncomfortable? Something is wrong.
So the way I would use the cards is actually they could be a little bit of an icebreaker. For example, I could say, I've been reconnecting with the ValuesJam game recently, and I realised actually just how important. I'm going to take the top card that's in my deck right now, ladies. So the top card is enjoyment. So I could say I've realised just how important this is to me in my work, enjoyment. But I find that actually I don't feel like I've got enough of it at the moment. There are a few things that are kind of not feeling 100% for me. And I wondered if we could explore that together, just to see if we can move the dial a bit, move us along the scale a little bit. So that might be how I'd use the card in that situation. And actually, where there's more time and more space, and there's kind of a situation of openness and trust, I'd actually play the game itself.
Do you think people respond positively when you whip out a pack of cards? Because you could have that conversation without the cards.
Oh,
so
yes.
How do you use the cards as a tool to bring up a conversation and move a conversation forward?
I'd probably refer to it, Julie. You don't necessarily have to whip out the cards, as you say.
Right.
You literally, refer to it. Say, it's a bit like saying, "Oh, I was listening to a really good podcast the other day, and it got me thinking," or "I was reading a book," or "I read this article." You just use it as a point of reference, really, in that kind of situation. But largely, kind of. We've been playing the games with people who've been interested in exploring their values or exploring a particular value. We've also kind of had lots of interest from people in particular sectors who feel that ValuesJam will help people to kind of tell their stories, actually. We've had some really, we call them rock and roll moments with ValuesJam. We've had some great rock and roll moments where people have been kind of talking away about any value, and suddenly a long forgotten memory comes forward, and they're like, I haven't thought about that in 30 years, but it suddenly feels relevant to talk about this right now. So we've explored that actually with a couple of psychologists, and they've told us what's happening is that the playing the game and the conversations are stimulating old neural connections and bringing them forward again, and kind of bringing back to life. I'm doing this little thing now that's neurons and dendrites and things in our brain. So yeah, it's amazing what happens when we kind of have a ValuesJam conversation.
Yeah. And I think, and this is why I wanted to bring it into creatives, because in the creatives industries, there's lots and lots of different types of creatives industries, but quite often there can be a lot of ego involved. Quite often there can be a lot of secrecy, and my idea is my idea, and you can feel quite insular and isolated, which is why we wanted to build a support network and say, look, actually, when you open up and collaborate, wonderful things can happen. You don't have to be an arsehole just because you're in a creative industry. And having some of those conversations brought up about having, I guess, what their values are is going to open up a wealth of new opportunity for them, because that's how you connect with people, as you said. You want to know that you're on the same page, or you feel the same way as the people that you're doing business with. And for business today, I think that is a really fundamental thing. And just going back to what you said earlier about people might not know what their values are, and it got me thinking, and I think, whenever from a business perspective, when people talk about values, the same ones, I don't know if you find this, Lisa, but until you really get into it, the same ones get trotted out. Oh, integrity, honesty, kindness, and it's almost like by rote, this is what I have to say to make me sound reasonable, and this is the accepted core set of corporate values that everybody has to have now, otherwise they're going to be a pariah. But in this pack, I'm just going to get the pack out. How many cards are there, Lisa? I'm just shaking this out.
There's 60 cards, so
yes,
59 values and one joker card.
So there's a lot of values in there. And when I was looking through them, again, there's some things I might not have immediately thought of as a value, but just even sorting through the card, you pick out the cards that are more relevant to you. I think that these are my top 6, 10, whatever. These are things that are my really fundamentals, are really, really my non-negotiables.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's lots of other things in there other than integrity and the ones that come up all the time.
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. And we did a lot of research around what values to put in there, and we know there's still lots of others, so we may be creating some extension packs. But that was why we had a joker card, because if there's something in there that isn't expressed for you, you can play the joker card. But yeah, absolutely, it's about kind of, you can use the card deck to identify what your values are. Actually got one of my teenage sons doing this when the decks first arrived. He didn't want to engage with it really, but his godfather said to him, come on, have you not played this game? And he said, oh, well, I don't know what to do with it. So that's how I set him off with it. And I just literally said, go through the card, and each one that comes, is that important to you or is it not? Put it in the right hand and the left hand pile. And you gradually kind of whittle it down. By the time you're kind of getting down to your top 10, my questions as a coach, if I'm working through this with you, would be, if you could only have one of them, which one would it be? So can I turn the tables on you, ladies? Do each of you know what your highest value is?
I would say honesty. People, when they lie or they manipulate, that to me is just the pits.
No, I agree. Honesty is very high up on mine, and as is family. But fun is quite high for me. I have to enjoy what I'm doing, because I've been in situations before where if I don't, I'm a very miserable person, and I'm a very miserable person to live with, and I want to sprinkle a little bit of fairy dust on the things that I do, and sprinkle a little bit of fairy dust for other people. I want people to come away from an experience of being with me thinking, oh God, that was really good, rather than, oh shit, it's Melanie again.
Yeah, wonderful. I love that.
But would you have fun with people who don't have integrity, who don't have honesty? If that's not their core value, there's no way you could have fun without that, should?
No. But I tend to find, if I'm honest, I tend to attract like people. I don't have people that are close, especially the people that are close to me, like lovely Julie, people that are close to me. I don't tend to attract idiots, because I don't really entertain them for very long, because I can't handle it.
but actually, subconsciously, what you are doing, Melanie, is you are attracting people with like values. May not be exactly the same values list. So you and Julie may be close. You may work together really, really well, but your values list may be slightly different, but there'll be stuff in common. And have you ever had that experience where I've had it myself, where you go to a party at a friend's house and you meet some of their friends or a close cousin or something, and you just click with them instantly, and you spend the whole evening or weekend with them. You feel like you're best mates, and you think, gosh, if we lived closer, if I'd known you earlier, we'd definitely been friends. Yeah? You recognise that? It's literally kind of, you kind of meet someone subconsciously at the level of values instantly. Your subconsciouses recognise those shared values in each other.
What about people who attract people who are not to be trusted? You often hear stories of two people who have been friends, they start a business together, and everything falls out. Falls apart, like B&Q. When they got together, they were working at the same level of vibration and all that, and then everything, once the money started pouring in, their values seem to be incredibly different. Yeah.
And I think, it can come down to a couple of things, Julie. I mean, one is that actually they didn't do enough due diligence at the time. They didn't dig deep enough to really test out, when the chips are down, what becomes really important to you, what is the most important thing to you, or when things are flying high, how do things change for you? But equally, it just may be that actually values shifted over a period of time, because they do actually. our values are not set for life, and that's really important to say. The values of a child who's kind of under the age of 18 may be quite different to the values of an adult because of life stage. But so many different factors influence our values. It's really context specific. And it's driven by kind of all of our human needs and what's going on for us at the time. If you look at kind of areas of conflict, people's values will very, very soon quickly shift contextually from maybe the enjoying the finer things to safety and security. So real kind of linking us back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs even.
Yeah.
How would you suggest people use your cards?
I suggest that people use the cards for two things, really. One is to kind of really, really kind of get to know self. So really kind of look at the values and just really go, what does this mean to me? And, really understand ourselves. And the other way is to get curious about other people. Now, I think one of you earlier in the podcast mentioned respect. Somebody had got that as kind of one of their highest values. The thing is though, that respect is in my top 6. Definitely, it's really, really important to me. However, what respect means to me and how I would like that to manifest itself for me may be very different to one of you or both of you. My business partner Alan has a story that he told me really resonated, and it is so much so that it's been very memorable. And this was a story of somebody who had taken a long journey to go and stay with a friend for the weekend. They'd driven a really long way. It had been, a tough journey. And when they arrived, ready to spend the weekend, there was nobody there to greet them. And instead they found a note saying, "Oh, welcome, I'm out at the moment. Your bedroom's at the top of the stairs on the left. Make yourself at home." And now the person who made the journey was really quite upset and offended. I've travelled all of this way and there's no one here to meet me. But the person who was hosting was actually thinking quite differently, was thinking it would be much more respectful after their friend had a really long and arduous journey, that they wouldn't want to get chatty and that they might like a bit of personal space, time to freshen up and a little rest before they had to interact with them. So both of them kind of had quite different views of how it was to be respectful in that situation. And that really, really resonated with me. So, you remember, I don't know about in your family, but in my family, it was always said, treat other people as you'd like to be treated. I don't like that phrase. I said, treat people as they would like to be treated.
Yeah, because there is a difference.
There is a very, very big difference.
You have to think about it, but there's a definite difference,
Yeah, a very, very big difference. So how do we use the cards then? So let's say I'm going to work with Melanie on a project and we're just figuring out whether we're a really good fit together. And we're talking about our values and we go, right, creativity, that's one of my values. And Melanie might say, yeah, that's creative. Yeah, same for me, actually. Well, the values cards all have 6 questions on the back. We recommend you can freestyle it, and we've got a lovely instruction leaflet, but actually jamming's all about freestyling it, right? Mm-hmm. So it's about going with the flow. So we recommend you start with the first question, end with the final question involved. But what happens in between, it should be quite organic. But the first question would be, so what does creativity mean? What does it look like, feel like, and sound like? And by asking that question and exploring it together, we figure out whether it's the same for us or different, and whether sameness is important or whether that difference and diversity is important and more valuable to us. So that's kind of how we use the cards.
Fantastic. And on that note, Lisa, I think it's time for me to get out my little card deck and give it a bit of a shuffle.
Okie dokie.
And then we're going to play the first Values Jam. I love these cards. I could sit here and just shuffle them all day because they are really silky and very, very tactile, very touchable. I hope I'm not sounding really weird now, but they are very tactile. I'm just sitting here playing with my cards. I'm just shuffling my cards. No, I better hurry up now. Okay, otherwise we'll be here all day and I'll be sitting here. Okay, I'm not very good at shuffling cards, mind you, because I've got arthritis in my fingers, which slows me down a bit. But right, okay. So they're as shuffled as they're going to get now. Okay, so I'm going to try and hold them up. I'll put them this way, and I'm going to put my finger over the top and just shout stop at any point, and I'll pick a card.
Are you going to do it, Julie?
No, you are.
Oh, me? I'm doing it. Okay.
We're playing it with you.
All right.
Oh, were you playing it with me? I'm sorry. I thought we were
playing it with Lisa. She's the guest. Pipe down. We'll play it with you another time.
You play with me anytime.
You can answer as well. Right, what have we got? What have we picked? Oh, harmony.
Oh, my word.
Harmony. I like that.
Now, I promise you, dear listeners, we have not planned this. This is completely random. But harmony is, wow, it's my highest value. So I'm very excited to talk about harmony with you, to jam about it. Yeah.
Fantastic. So do tell us, Lisa, what does harmony mean, look, feel, and sound like to you?
So harmony to me is, it's not about skipping through a meadow holding hands with flowers in your hair and feeling lovely, appealing as though that is. It's actually about bringing different voices together and creating something really powerful and really strong that feels amazing. It's like musical harmony.
Yeah, I like that. That's lovely.
That's what harmony is to me. And so it definitely sounds like that amazing choir that have all of the different notes coming together. It resonates from your solar plexus and tingles all through your body. What does it look like? It looks like people who feel like they're in a good place and in the good place at the same time. So, yes. What about you?
For me, harmony, it is. It's like I see it in sound waves, almost, and yeah, I feel it's like, for me, it's like a vibration, a good vibration, where everything is as it should be. There's I think it was P.G. Woodhouse wrote in one of his books, at the end of one of the Jews and Worcester books, the sun was shining, the birds are singing, the God is in his heaven and all is right with the world. And that's kind of how I feel about harmony, when everything is just perfect and in sync and happening, and you're on that positive vibe. And it's kind of like, it's a bright colour. It's a bright, hopeful colour.
It's a yellow. It's like the sunshine in your heart, isn't it?
Yeah, like buttercups. And, and if I want to run through that buttercup field naked, Lisa Birtles, I will. Thank you very much.
I didn't say it didn't sound nice, but I think I think that people, sometimes other people shy away from harmony. They think it's a bit happy clappy. And, well, anyway, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Exactly. But Julie, I love what you just said. It's like sunshine in your heart.
Yeah.
Well, I've been in situations in the workplace where if there is harmony amongst the team, they are more productive, they don't make mistakes, and they walk out of work with a smile on their face thinking, yeah, we did a good job, and they clap each other on the back. And I've been in situations where the leader of the team just throws their weight around and thinks being a boss means cracking a whip all the time. The resentments, the people make mistakes, they get all nervous. They walk out thinking, oh God, I wish I didn't have to work at this place. I have seen both, and I'm sure everybody has seen both sides of that coin in any company or corporate situation. So to have harmony in your work, whether you work from home on your own or you're working for a company, a big team, a small team, it is absolutely essential to have harmony amongst you and your colleagues, because if you have disharmony, it has such an effect on your productivity and on the way your people around you feel about themselves. It's nothing worse than working in a negative workplace. So I think harmony is essential when it comes to work.
I think that's absolutely true and spot on. And I'm thinking about the film industry here. And I saw a couple of posts on LinkedIn a little while ago about how kindness seems to be going out the window in the filming industry, because people are thinking that they have to act in a very aggressive way to get on and get up the ladder. And the opposite really is true. If you have got a film crew and a set where the production team, the crew, the actors, the directors, producers, everybody's in harmony, it's going to work a hell of a lot better. And our little film, Scooch, Julie, is testament to that, wasn't it? I mean, we had an absolute ball making Scooch, and it's won so many awards. It's not, we're just off the chart with superstars. But I think that's because we had harmony, didn't we? Everybody just loved each other, and we still do love each other. And we love each other, going forward. We're all still in touch with each other. It's lovely. And I think you're absolutely right. You have to have these positive values. Because the next question on the card kind of links into that. Where have you noticed a lack of harmony, Lisa? I think Julie's talked about hers.
Yeah, the one that's kind of forefront in my mind, because it came through when you were talking about your example, Julie, and it was a workplace. Actually, I was consulting for this organisation who shall remain nameless, and I was building something quite new and quite special, and they asked me to be part of the team. They created the perfect job for me on paper, and but then there wasn't resource, there wasn't team, there wasn't collaboration, there was backstabbing, there were untruths, gossiping, all of these things. So it became extremely toxic. It was the exact opposite. And when you suddenly, it creeps up on you, and you kind of know that you're experiencing kind of feelings that are not healthy physically and kind of mentally. And suddenly one day, this is what happens with me. This has happened to me a few times, is that's it. I'm not having this anymore. And I am going. That's it. And I've actually done that twice now. And I can remember walking out of those places and thinking, I am never, ever setting foot in here again. Much to my husband's dismay, his wife has kind of come home and said, honey, I've got something to tell you. I've walked out of a high-paying senior corporate job and I haven't got another one to go to. But for me, just no more. I can't stay. Harmony for me means that kind of everybody is being heard and respected and being allowed to play. And that wasn't the case for me.
So it all boils down to good manners. I've had team leaders who have been so ill-mannered that it creates a toxic team, a toxic feeling around the team. And then I've had a boss who was just and still is an absolute delight. He could make fun and be sarcastic, but at the end of the day, he had basic good manners, and he would never treat somebody badly. So that goes back to what you were saying, Lisa, that you should treat people the way they want to be treated. So it's all intermingled there, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Lisa, when have you experienced harmony?
Gosh, this is this feels quite indulgent to be able to answer these questions. I think where I'm minded to think of a team that I worked with over 20 years ago now. We are still friends and we still meet up every quarter because we were all working for the same goal, and we saw each other as whole human beings with all of our flaws and all of our strengths. So if there was something that I was seen to be good at and that I enjoyed, I was allowed to do more of that. And the things that I was less good at and that I didn't enjoy, they'd be picked up by someone else because they enjoyed them. But there was always this deep, 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 deep sense of trust and respect. Fun definitely came into it as well, because with trust, it means that you can have a laugh. People won't take it the wrong way. That, you can be your whole self. You can come into work and cry because you've had a rubbish morning getting to work, and your colleagues will make you a cup of tea. That's probably kind of a nice example. And it kind of like we had a little bit of magic going on in that team, and I feel I could have a contented sigh whenever I think about them.
That's lovely. I love that.
Did that have a lot to do with your team leader, with your manager?
Oh, you know what? Actually, she started out she was my client because I was an external consultant. And she is a person of such consistent integrity. And I truly mean integrity. Always, always treats people with consideration, respect. Doesn't mean she's a pushover. She isn't. But, have you met people before, kind of like you never quite know how they're going to react when you approach them with something and you get slightly scared that they might blow up? No, not her. I'm going to name her Carmen. What a wonderful woman. And, she later became my boss. She's always been my mentor. I can still call her now. And she always tells me the truth, kindly.
You see, it always depends on the team leader, whether you're going to have harmony or not.
Yes.
If there's no respect, if there are no manners, if there's no trust, if there's no honesty, you're not going to get harmony.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Down, definitely.
So what about you, ladies? When have you experienced? You mentioned your team, your production team.
Oh, definitely Scooch. We're definitely harmony on Scooch. And for me, I mean, Julie's talked about her lack of harmony. And again, I've experienced it in the corporate world for exactly those same things. When you get a leader who rules by fear or is, very egotistical, and it's their way or the highway, and they then wonder why their teams aren't as productive as they should be. Looking everywhere else but at the right place for the real cause of the problem, in my view. So moving swiftly on, because we've only got a few minutes left. How do you think more harmony could improve the world, Lisa?
Well, I just, really feel that the strongest harmonies are made when you bring different voices together. So I think that harmony has got a massive role to play in diversity, actually, and it seems to be a role that I play in teams and on projects. Is I kind of almost act as the interpreter between different voices. Sometimes, one person doesn't quite understand where the other one's coming from, or one person can't quite get what they need from the other person. And I'm somehow always able to see both sides. So it's really my strong belief and passion that if more people could kind of approach the world like that, then everybody gets to play their part and play, do their best work, live the best life, and everything kind of works and moves forward. So that's how I think more harmony could help the world. It's just helping people to see the value in the different voices, and how you might not have even known that you needed that voice actually, but when it joins yours, it's suddenly so much stronger and more powerful together. And it comes from this whole sense of all of us are stronger than one of us. We can do great things together.
Absolutely. So if you could ask your own question about harmony, the what, where, when, why, or how questions, if you want to ask your own question to Julie or I or both of us, what would it be?
So how can people in the creatives industry use the concept of harmony to help each other more?
Do you want to answer that, Julie?
Well, I think the very idea behind this creatives group is basically to become a family and to help each other. Somebody who is an artist could have a very good suggestion for somebody who is, say, a drone operator, and say, why haven't you tried this? Or, we do these, I do this with this, maybe it could work with that. And I think in that sense, the group, if we have harmony within the creatives group, you are all helping each other, even if it's not your particular area of expertise. You are there for each other. And I think that can drive members forward in their own careers and also in their own sense of self-worth and value.
Absolutely, absolutely. We want creatives to be a very nurturing, safe space, especially for those. I mean, I see in the creative industries, I see it as, harmony comes from listening, really listening, and being respectful as well. You don't want people screaming at you or telling you you're stupid if you've made a mistake. You want something that's not right and know how to fix it. And some of these places, as Julie's already touched on, that run on complete fear, with people yelling and screaming and just being awful because they think they have to be aggressive, and their egos run rampant. And also you've got to remember, some creatives are very temperamental. We can be quite fiery, we can be very over the top, or we can be in the depths of despair. A lot of creatives are very, very, very emotional types of people. We take special handling, which is why I wanted a group for creatives who understand how people like us feel. And when you're coping with the day-to-day kind of stuff and maybe trying to deal with a boss or a team or an environment that isn't quite right. And that's why I'm really hoping to bring your cards into play within our group, because, having those conversations, getting it out and letting people know what your values are is okay. And also what's not okay. And a lot of film productions, I feel, people are so keen to work in that industry because of the big names and the big, I worked for a huge corporate and I did walk away in the end, and it was definitely the right thing to do. And the job made me ill. And it was when I walked away and people were telling me, you look, I was stressed out of my tree, but because it was a big, big brand, I wasn't going to walk away from that. It had me. And in the filming industry, it's like, people want to go and work for those big industries because then they'll get their name, they'll get their thing, they'll get their validation, but you don't have to be treated like less than you are. If you're on a set and it's awful, just walk away, go find another production company, because these people won't win in the long run. The world is changing, and I think COVID has really brought that out. People are now a lot more willing to talk about their feelings and about respect and about what they will and won't accept from the workplace, especially.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Melanie. And we we've heard of all of the Me Too campaign and so on. And, we're surfacing all that is not acceptable in every industry. It's not, it's not just the film industry. It's everywhere. We're surfacing it, and we as human beings are being given our voices now, and we must use them. I'm so glad you mentioned listening, because we must listen. In order to listen, we have to ask great questions, ask the open question, and then zip it and wait for people, to share with you what's important. But it's only in doing that it becomes much better to say, something is really, X is really important to me, and therefore Y is really not acceptable. And I'm sorry, but that's not okay for me. That is not good for me. And I'm not prepared to work like that and in that way. I actually, Melanie, you talked about people walking away and voting with their feet. I do want to see that, but my dream is more people being able to actually resolve and stay. Without too much compromise, though, actually being able to say, this is my positive intent. This is what I need. What is it that you're looking for, and how can we meet in the middle? And sometimes others of us have to kind of help mediate that kind of conversation sometimes. But listening, asking, sharing, being open, and we don't have to be rude or disrespectful to somebody. We can simply say, this is important to me. This is not okay for me. Where do we go from here? How do we move forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, the final question before we close. What are you encouraged to do differently about harmony as a result of our conversation?
Again, it just feels like a lovely self-indulgent question for me, but I have become a little bit disconnected from the one-to-one work that I absolutely love doing, because I've been working on some large corporate transformation programs, which I love. But one of my gifts is listening. I'm able to listen and to really kind of see a big picture of what people are telling me and help them to create a calm way forward out of chaos. And I want to do much more of that. In order to do that, I need to put myself out there more. And so that is my kind of big do differently. So it's finding how I want to put myself out there and doing it for me. How about yourselves?
Yeah, I think that's very, very similar. We just want to bring harmony to the world of creatives, don't we? Julie, we want to have that calm, respectful
peace
place.
To the world.
Peace and world peace. Yeah, exactly.
I kind of work as a communications director, and I work with many people from the creative industry. There are so many different skill sets out there and such talents, actually. And you know what I'm always staggered by is how we all bring it together to create something absolutely fantastic. Making a film, it's not just about the script. The public always think about it as the actor. It's not much more. It's about everything. And we need everything. We need everything to make that fantastic film that everybody loves and remembers. So let's all talk to each other, support each other, do the work we love, do our best work, and bring it out there to the world.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Julie. It's been a delight, Lisa, to have you on, and we would love to invite you into the Creatives Group every now and again to come and play the Values Jam game, or just talk about some things that maybe we need to hear, and I'm sure that there are members that would need help or would like to talk through some of these things. So they're just an amazing tool. You can follow Lisa. I think you've got a new YouTube channel, you said, coming out. You're on Instagram, Facebook, all of those places. People can find you at ValuesJam, and you'll see across the bottom of the screen the website where you can order your pack of ValuesJam cards if you would like to get some and have a go. And I do thoroughly recommend them, even if you just sit there and feel them. that will bring you harmony, just sitting and touching the cards. But thank you so much, Lisa. It's been absolutely delightful having you on today.
Thank you so much, Melanie.
Next week, we've got a very special guest. He is Broadway actor Antoine Magic Raymond. Not only a Broadway actor, but he is a speaker, he is an author, and he is a soldier of love. So do tune in to next week. It's going to be a very special show. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.